All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast on MMA Unhinged. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host Oscar, and we have such a fantastic episode to talk about. UFC 278 went down the past weekend, and we witnessed something special in the main event.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be a historic night because either Usman or tie Anderson Silva for the most consecutive wins in UFC history, or we would see a massive upset. And we saw a massive upset. Leon Edwards defeated Kamaru Usman to become the first Jamaican-born UFC champion, and he did it in epic fashion. This is one of the most shocking KOs I've seen in my entire life.
Absolutely. In the main event, you talked about Edwards getting a knockout in the fifth round. If it went to the scorecards, he was losing that fight. But the coaches in the corner were saying to him, "Don't give hope. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't give up hope." And then he produced that one shot. I thought he was waiting too much for that one shot. I thought he had to be more aggressive, but it turns out he knows a lot more than me.
Yeah, so let's go through the fight. In round one, we see Usman walk forward, back Leon up, attempt takedowns. He failed to get takedowns, but Leon Edwards actually succeeded in getting himself a takedown. And the takedown was right into full mount, which was insanity, because Kamaru Usman has 100% takedown defense. That's the best takedown defense in UFC history. And the whole conversation piece heading into the fight was Usman's wrestling advantage, and it was Edwards that got the first takedown. And after he got the full mount, Usman gave up his back. Edwards got the body triangle and attempted a rear naked choke, but of course Usman has worked a ton on his submission defense, and Edwards was unable to get anything going, but he did get some ground and pound going off of Usman's back, winning him that first round. But of course, Usman just lost that position. In reality, he actually was the better grappler, but it was just that one takedown. In round two, Usman is backing up Edwards once again, and now he's starting to use his boxing, and he gets himself a takedown at the end of round two. And 3 and 4 were more of the same. Usman is all about that pressure, and Edwards was succumbing to that pressure. And to me, it really looked like Usman was not struggling a whole lot to get these takedowns. He got 5 out of 12 takedown attempts. So Usman was fighting his fight, and quite honestly, it was not all that exciting. Really, it was a dominant display by him. If you look at these total strikes, it's 189 to 64 for Usman. Edwards was saying his striking was so much better, but he was not really doing much on the feet when it was there. So we get to round 5. Usman is up 3-1. Edwards is told by his corner, you got to do something. By something, they meant finish that fight because he was not going to win on points. So Edwards does not come out hot. You would think, maybe he would go for broke, but he did not. He stayed within himself. And on the commentary team, they're saying that basically that Leon Edwards is like Rocky Balboa in the first movie. He wants to get to the decision, so he has that moral victory, and he can just say he went to decision with the champion. That was not the case. Edwards had different plans. So he goes for that 1-2. Edwards parries, and he parries way too much. That left high kick lands as clean as it gets, and it puts down Kamaru Usman. Usman is immediately out cold. His eyes are open, but he is completely unconscious. No ground and pound necessary, and Leon Edwards becomes the UFC welterweight champion. And my jaw was immediately on the floor at the sports bar I was at. Everybody was speechless. It was an insane scene. One of the craziest comebacks I've ever witnessed. This is going to be a moment we're going to be talking about forever.
I mean, it was absolutely insanity. It was 6 a.m. whilst I was watching this fight, and it was worth it because obviously I saw someone from England win the belt that night. Leon Edwards get it done. I mean, what he has done for this generation, just for winning that fight, it's incredible. He's gonna inspire a lot of people to train mixed martial arts because they know that's a dream that can come true. You don't have to go over to America to win a belt. You don't have to train in these big gyms. He trains at Renegade Jiu-Jitsu in Birmingham, England, and he's won a world championship inside the UFC. That's going to inspire a lot of kids to train mixed martial arts, and obviously it's a fantastic event for the MMA community if you're in the UK. I heard someone say that they want to call that day the Leon Day, and I truly would say the same as well.
Yeah, I don't think I've been much more shocked in other fights that I've watched. Like, I would say the comparison I felt watching that knockout was a good comparison to that was Pena versus Nunes, the first fight. That was super shocking. Maybe Conor versus Diaz, one that was super shocking. But the manner that Leon Edwards did it in, super clean head kick after definitively losing the rounds, and also after a really crazy 2 years of a bunch of fight cancellations and a lot of doubters. Even I was one of those doubters. I was thinking that he was definitively the third best welterweight in the world. I thought it was Usman and Colby that were definitely the two best, but he proved on that night that he was the very best in the world. Usman fought a damn good fight. He didn't underestimate Edwards. He fought smart, but it was one mistake. All that boxing training for Usman did not prepare him for the kicking game of Leon Edwards, and he paid for it dearly. But if he doesn't make that one mistake in the trilogy fight, which Dana White says could potentially be in Wembley Stadium, I think Usman is going to regain that belt. But once again, Leon Edwards can shock the world again.
That's the biggest fight that can happen, is where they're going to take it. Is obviously Leon Edwards versus Usman Trilogy 3 in Wembley. It has to happen. I think Dana knows it has to happen. He's got the money signs in his eyes. It's 94,000 seat a stadium, and I guarantee you they will sell up every single seat. And obviously they have the floor seats as well, so it'll be maybe 100,000. So they will sell every single seat inside that stadium if they bring Edwards versus Usman to the pay-per-view, the title to the England. And then obviously you've got other names in it, like Darren Till, Paddy Pimblett. The list will go on and on and on. And that will probably be one of the biggest pay-per-views that we probably have in UFC history. Obviously, it won't top McGregor or anything like that. It won't reach them type of numbers, but it'll be outside that numbers. And then obviously it will be really, really big.
Yeah, Dana White has actually in the past he says he does not want to do stadiums. He thinks the arena experience is better. But the fact that Leon Edwards got this done, it changed his mind. He's seriously thinking about it. He does not want the weather to get in the way. But honestly, that's a risk I think the UFC should be willing to take, just because it'd be such a huge moment. I don't know how they could prevent, like, if it rains a little bit or whatever. I don't know how they could prevent the rain from getting in the way, but still, I really hope they find a way to make it work, because it'd be a huge moment no matter what. Leon Edwards walking out for the first time as champion in front of his people in the UK.
Absolutely, it would be absolutely insanity. The reception he gets, it would just be ridiculous. And obviously, inside Wembley Stadium, obviously a dream come true. They can't do it in the O2 Arena because it would be way, way too small.
Yeah, and honestly, they, with the amount of star power that would be on the card, they would have to make those tickets even more expensive than they already are. And from what I hear, they're already super expensive. So that's what Dana's thinking, quite honestly, that we have to have more seats, because the O2 fills up easily, and those are fight nights without even title fights like this on it.
Exactly. This is a fantastic place to be if you're a Brit and if you love MMA, because we're in such a fantastic position, probably the best ever position that we've ever been in inside mixed martial arts. We've got so much to look forward to. We have a champion that holds a belt, the first ever Jamaican born as well. We want to talk about that as well. So obviously, Aljamain Sterling, he won the belt, but he's the first Jamaican American, and obviously now Edwards becomes the first Jamaican born champion inside the UFC. And obviously, he's lived in Birmingham most of his whole life, so obviously has that residence over here.
Yeah, also the ripple effect that knockout creative just changed the whole sport, because Kamaru Usman was ranked number 1 on the pound for pound list in the UFC's rankings, and now that is Alexander Volkanovski. So the whole game has changed right now. If Usman cannot win that trilogy fight. I think that'll change the trajectory of his whole career, because Dana White was demanding that Usman be placed above GSP in the welterweight rankings, and GSP avenged all of his losses. So if Usman can't avenge this loss, you definitely got to put GSP above him.
Exactly. Edwards wins the belt in dramatic fashion, in dramatic later fashion. What would you call this? Would you call this the greatest comeback in UFC title history?
I would say it's probably tied with Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva, when Chael Sonnen was having tons of grappling success against Anderson Silva, even hurting him on the feet for 4 rounds. And then we get to round number 5. Anderson Silva, of course, known for his Muay Thai striking, but in that 5th round, he pulls out that jiu-jitsu black belt and gets that triangle and makes Chael Sonnen tap. That was probably just as crazy as this, but I don't see like a close second or third.
Absolutely. Obviously, you got Holly home, but that wasn't really a comeback. That was just, the way Leonardo was done it, and what he's going to achieve after this fight is just what really is touching. If you're from the UK, as I mentioned so much already, it's truly inspired everyone over here. So congratulations to Leon Edwards. Kamaru Usman, don't get us wrong. He'll be back. He'll come back, and he'll be ready more than ever for that trilogy fight in London.
Yeah, for me, this is probably comeback of the year. It's a contender for knockout of the year. It's the winner right now for upset of the year. This was truly a moment that will live forever.
Yeah, we had a fantastic main event. Edwards shocking the world, getting that belt. But the co-main event, we'll move on. The co-main event, it showed everything in this fight. This was the weirdest but best fight I've kind of ever seen in mixed martial arts. Luke Rockhold, kind of gassed, and we've never really seen Luke Rockhold look that tired. We've seen it throughout the whole event, top to bottom. The elevation looked like a serious problem. Obviously fighting over there, I want to say Utah, what was 4,200 feet up above sea level, which is a high level. So yeah, it really seemed like it affected most of the fighters, and we've seen Luke Rockhold get affected, and it did not affect his heart though, because his heart remained throughout the fight. He was always in there. He's a dog, and we really found it. And I feel like, obviously, at the end of it, he retired, and I felt like this was the perfect way to see Luke Rockhold go out. I know he lost, but he just showed what he's kind of about.
Yeah, Luke Rockhold can retire unashamedly because he laid the glass chin talk to rest. He fought one of the hardest hitters in the history of the middleweight division, a man that knocked down Yoel Romero, and he went the full 15 with this guy. Not only did he do the full 15, he was completely gassed 4 minutes in.
Crazy.
Yeah, I really cannot believe that Luke Rockhold did not take a nap in this fight. I'm very happy we had multiple fouls in this fight, because these guys needed that rest real bad. I'm surprised Luke Rockhold didn't take more time after he got straight up uppercutted in the bollocks, because that was a gnarly uppercut. Paulo Costa claims to this day that was a body shot. That was not a body shot. It ended up like touching Luke's body, but it started below the belt.
Absolutely. It was obviously there was one of few, as you talked about, illegal blows in this one. The body, the illegal nut shot gave Luke Rockhold some time to recover, and then he just came out back like a hell for about 20 seconds, and then obviously he gassed a little bit again. We've seen a lot in this fight. We saw Luke's personality. Obviously, there was a lot of pressure on him in this fight, obviously coming back from a champion. He said he wanted to get that belt back, but it just seemed, he mentioned it in his post-fight interview, age. He just got old, and that's what it was. We're seeing these legends getting old. Luke Rockhold getting old. Obviously, we're seeing Tony Ferguson slow down a lot recently. Unfortunately, we're witnessing them come to the end of their career. But Luke Rockhold went out the perfect way. He announced his retirement at the end of it. He smudged his blood all over Paulo Costa. It was just a perfect way for me to Luke Rockhold to go out. It was a fantastic fight. He made it entertaining. Yes, he lost every single round decisively, but it was still competitive. I must say, it was still very competitive.
Honestly, I actually gave Luke Rockhold round 3. He put Paulo Costa on wobbly legs. I thought that was the most significant moment of that round, and he actually ended ended the fight in a top position. So that was his best round, which is crazy because, as I said, he was completely gassed and he was fighting with poor fight IQ. He had his hands low constantly. I don't know what was up with Paulo Costa that he wasn't going for the kill shot more, because I thought if he went for it, he would have gotten it. Paulo Costa was coming off of 2 losses heading into this one, so that's probably why he was a little hesitant. He did not want to get knocked out himself, which he almost did in round 3. But in round 1, right away, Paulo Costa gets a takedown. Luke Rockhold was talking about his grappling advantage the whole week. Paulo Costa outgrappled him, I would say, in this fight, and he started getting some ground pound going, and that grappling right there wore down Luke Rockhold big time. It appeared to me that Luke Rockhold must have gotten injured during camp, so he could not do the proper cardio training, because he looked awful out there from a cardiovascular perspective. And in round 2, it looked to me like it was just a matter of time before Costa put him away. But, of course, we had those fouls. We had those breaks. Rockhold was laying some big kicks to the body. But, of course, Costa's ab muscles are shields, so it didn't really affect him. Of course, we had the uppercut down south in that round. Round 2 was a great round for Costa. But, as I said, round 3, Rockhold puts Costa on wobbly legs. But in the majority of that round, he is getting backed up. He's even wincing in pain at some points in that fight. Costa really put a bad beating on him, but Rockhold finally got to show off how tough he was. We didn't really get to see that before. The whole heading to fight week, he was saying he will never break in the cage. It's going to have to, fight. His opponents are going to have to put him completely out for him now, like go away. And that's what happened here. He did not go away, and he retired in the cage. As soon as he lost, I was sure of it, because I was sure he was going to retire, because he said he was only coming back to win the title, just win this fight and then win the title, then retire. So the fact that he lost this one and looked, it looked like he had a lot of issues heading into the fight. Yeah, I knew it was it. And it's one hell of a career for Luke Rockhold.
Yeah, I still think there's fights in that top 15 that obviously Luke Rockhold can win. But obviously he called it quits. He called it a day. He knows he's getting old, and obviously his physical ability is declining a little bit. So he called it a day. And obviously good luck to Luke Rockhold to see what his future endeavors, whatever he goes from here. The best of luck to him. We talked about one retirement, and let's talk about potentially another one. But this one, I kind of don't really want to happen. Jose Aldo lost 30-27, 29-28, and obviously 29-28. So it came out yesterday. Merab announced on the MMA Hour from Arawani that Jose Aldo told him that was his last fight, which confused me a bit, because I thought that the perfect scenario for Jose Aldo was the Rio de Janeiro, the pay-per-view in January. I think that's the perfect way for him to bow out. But we're going to talk about Merab's performance before we get there. A lot of takedowns, a lot of unsuccessful takedowns, 0 out of 16 to be quite to be exactly on the number. But what we saw in this fight was Jose Aldo has got some absolutely phenomenal takedown defense to defend 16 takedowns from Merab constantly, because he never gave him a break. In the 3rd round, he was still going for him. But yeah, it just seems like Merab had his number that night. It was a very close fight. The relentlessness and the pressure, the pace of Merab, it just seems to break fighters. But Jose Aldo was still in this fight for 3 rounds, but Merab did what he needed to do. His pressure is relentless, and he's a phenomenal fighter. Now he asserts himself in the top 5.
Yeah, Jose Aldo was very hesitant in this fight because of the takedown threat for Merab. If Merab was going to win, this was going to be the way it was going to be, because Jose Aldo, as we stated, heading into this fight week, he has some of the best takedown defense we've ever seen. And his takedown defense stat only improved after this fight. Merab was unsuccessful in 16 takedown attempts. He only got 5 minutes of control time, and that was just up against the cage. But the problem with Jose Aldo was he was good at defense, but the offense was not there. He only attempted 67 significant strikes throughout 15 minutes. That lets you know how much Merab shut him down. The people saying that Merab should not be given credit for his failed takedown attempts just don't understand the game well, because you don't get credit for defense. Merab was being the offensive fighter in those situations. And even when they were striking, Merab was getting the better of Aldo because Aldo's hands were low, not defending his head because he was winning on those takedowns. Merab outstruck him 135-59 in this fight. He was the busier fighter. And to me, he at least won a 29-28. You can maybe give him a 30-27. Aldo just got shut down in this fight. It was that takedown threat that bothered him. And ultimately, Merab now moves up in rankings. He actually moved up to number 3 as a result of this. I don't think he wants a title shot at bantamweight because, of course, his training partner, Aljamain Sterling, holds the belt. So I think he's just happy to rack up these wins and be undeniable in with whichever division he ends up going to.
Absolutely. He's his training partner and obviously good friend, Aljamain Sterling. So interesting to see the move for them both. I don't know whether Merab will be able to drop down or maybe Aljamain Sterling goes up. I really don't know what's going to happen, but it'll be just interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, Aljamain Sterling, he's got a fight booked against TJ Dillashaw, so that could potentially be his last fight at bantamweight. We don't know.
Yeah, I actually think he's going to lose that fight to TJ Dillashaw, so there you go. That could create an opening for Merab. I know the UFC definitely isn't a huge fan of Aljamain, so they would not rush him back to the title shot. So that could create an opening for Merab. But to me, it looks like Merab knows he didn't earn a title shot with this one. And he's already said he wants to fight either Henry Cejudo or Marlon Chito Vera.
Yeah, fantastic fight for Merab. He gets the job done. Top 3 in the world. And now he's going to get a big fight shortly next. I know Chito Vera's there. So maybe Chito Vera, Merab Dvalishvili. Main event, if they don't, that'll be good on 5 rounds. That'll be an interesting one. We'll see how that goes down. Moving over, Lucy Polidorova was making her return, and she got pushed onto the main card. Late notice. I don't want to talk about whether I agreed or disagreed with that or not, but we'll move on. But Lucy Polidorova versus Wu Yanun was on the main card. They got pushed, and the Queen, not the Queen of Violence. I was going to call her Queen of Violence, but that's Ariane Lipski. She got it done. Her return to the UFC was successful. She had time outside the UFC in Octagon. Only lost to one person off the top of my head. I can't remember her name. Talia something. But yeah, she lost once outside the UFC when she got released. And now she's back. And it was a successful one. And she got the job done in the second round. Was you impressed by Lucy Polidorova on the return?
I really was. I was confident we would see this fight go all 15 minutes. Even though these women have a lot of finishes on their records, those were against a low-level competition, not UFC-level competition. But for Lucy Polidorova to come out this aggressive and to be this grappling heavy was weird because if you watch a lot of her UFC career, she was just boxing with these women, including Irene Aldana, which that's not a good idea to do. But Wu Yanan, of course, won win in the UFC. Pre-UFC, fought horrible competition, not a UFC-level fighter. And she fights Lucy Polidorova, who was on a 4-fight skid, then got released by the UFC. She even lost a split decision to a 5-3 fighter, I believe it was. And she still found her way back. And apparently the UFC saw something in her that I didn't, because she actually came back improved, and she destroyed Wu Yanan. And now I do believe she is UFC caliber right now. Very happy we saw a finish in this fight because I was hoping because I was thinking we were just going to get a decision that wasn't all that eventful.
Absolutely, a fantastic return. She looked really good. The Muay Thai was really flowing. And we saw a little bit control time, obviously takedowns as well. Obviously, a vastly improvement to the last time we saw Lucy Polidorova, who, the last time I can remember, she got submitted by Antonina Shevchenko. So it was a big part that she needed to, work on. And obviously, it seems like she's paid that outside the UFC, and she looks better than ever. A fantastic fight for Lucy. She gets a win inside the UFC, a successful return, and now she's 2 back-to-back wins, 5 in her last 4. So fantastic for her. Tyson Pedro versus Harry Hunsaker. I mean,
Wow,
we just knew this was going to happen, didn't we? Harry Hunsaker, three Australians, one New Zealand in his last 3 fights, and he's got knocked out in every single one of them. It was a drop down to 205 pounds for Harry Hunsaker, but it was not going to change the outcome of this fight. Tyson Pedro is just a different level to Harry Hunsaker.
Harry Hunsaker has never seen the 5th minute of the first round. Tyson Pedro has only won in the first round, so we knew for damn sure we were going to see a first round finish in this one. And Tyson Pedro got it done in just a little over a minute. He was able to rock Harry Hunsaker and then front kick right to the body, folds over Harry, and he gets the TKO immediately. Very clean performance by Tyson Pedro. He was an 8-1 favorite in this fight, and he looked every bit of it. Of course, Harry Hunsaker, not a UFC caliber talent, has not beaten anybody that's good. And of course, when you get finished like that, back to back, of course, you're going to be gone from the UFC. And for Tyson Pedro, I cannot believe how easy these matchups have been for him. He fought Ike Villanueva and now Harry Hunsaker. He's got to move up in competition, man, because these fights are too easy for him. I say you give him the winner of Alonzo Menefield versus Misha Serkinov.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with the competition. Obviously, a lot outside the cage that he dealt with, a very long time away from the cage as well. So maybe the UFC are trying to just build his confidence, or not his confidence, just build his ring rust off a little bit and just build him back up slowly.
Yeah, he's got a win over Paul Craig, who is in the top 15.
I mean, Paul Craig, yeah. Maybe they could potentially run it back because obviously Paul Craig just lost, so.
Yeah, that's a possibility right now. Tyson Pedro, he could definitely be a mainstay in that top 15 if he continues to rack up these wins.
Absolutely. Tyson Pedro getting it done in 1 minute and 5 seconds in number round 1. Harry Hunsaker falling into 3 back-to-back losses. It's not looking good for him inside the UFC. Potentially his last fight. Probably his last fight inside the UFC. Hasn't won inside the UFC. So off the top of my knowledge, I don't think he has one. I think it's 3 back-to-back losses. Yes. Yeah, it is, yeah. So unfortunate for him. He's got absolutely handed some absolute savages in his UFC tenure. But moving on to the prelims. The prelims feature main event was Marcin Tybura versus Alexander Romanov, and this was the told you so fight of the week. And I talked about it with Oscar before we went live, and I thought the first round, I was like, I've got your number, Oscar. That's it. I've got you. I told you, Romanov. He's the really good prospect. He's going to destroy everyone. He's going to get there, and then round 2 hit, and we talked about it. All them slams. Yes, the slams look pretty. They look good. In the first round, 27 strikes to 0. It was a 10-8 round. No offense for Marcin Tybura, but man, oh man, where is that cardio? Where is that enthusiasm in the round number 2, number 3? We just really don't see it. Maybe we should definitely look into that Harness Brusino fight a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, I knew that Romanov would tire out in this fight. This was his big step up in competition. He's finding a guy that has main evented against Fabricio Verdum and Derek Lewis before. This guy has seen it all. He's seen guys like Romanov come through the UFC gates before, and he did have a terrible first round. He had 0 offense. Romanov was throwing him around like a child, like he does everyone. But here's the difference: the Jared Van Deres of the world, the low-level guys he's fought, they did get put away. But Tybura is a good grappler, man, and he showed it off. After that round 1, he started stuffing those takedowns, and on the feet was clearly a better striker than Romanov. Romanov, he did go to Tiger Muay Thai to prepare, but that's just not enough. Like, you've got to rack up the experience striking in the UFC like Tybura has. He went to a close striking battle with Volkov, so Tybura knows what he's doing in there. Romanov, on the other hand, he's got that young and dumb spirit, thinking he can run over everybody. And he got humbled in that Juan Espino fight. And I don't think enough people knew about that fight because it was an awful look for him. He got taken down in that fight. He got beat up on the feet, and he gave up on himself in round 3 after a very light cup shot. It was obvious fatigue, and that fatigue cost him this fight. Sure, this was a draw because round 1 was for Tybura, 2 and 3. Round 1 was a 10-8 for Romanov, and 2 and 3 were Tybura rounds. So that was a draw, but the judges did not see it that way. And now I can take my credit. Marcin Tybura, big underdog this week, and he wins majority decision.
Absolutely, a fantastic. I do agree with it being the draw. I think that's obviously the way it should have went. But we're not judges apparently, and obviously it was a fantastic fight. Romanov, the first round looked good, and I just thought he would continue it, and oh boy, was I wrong. Marcin Tybura worked his way back into it after a fatigued Romanov couldn't really get any offense going. Fantastic from Marcin Tybura. He wins it. He goes back to winning ways after losing to Volkov. But he's a really good staple, a really good fighter to have inside that heavyweight division.
Yeah, 100%. Of course, he's going to learn from this fight. Hopefully, get himself on the treadmill more often. And Tybura, on the other hand, I don't think people are going to doubt him like this again. I would like to see him fight the winner of Chris Daukaus versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
That's a fantastic fight. Chris Daukaus, obviously, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, a really good matchup in that heavyweight division. Both of them are not, too great as of late. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, off the top of my head, losing recently to Curtis Blades,
to Volkov and Curtis Blades.
Volkov. And so he's 3 back-to-back. And obviously Chris Daukaus coming off the back of Curtis Blades. There you go.
Yeah, I got it mixed up. But yeah, both guys lost to Curtis Blades.
Yeah. It was interesting to see how that one gets on. But we'll move on to the next matchup in the lightweight division. Last week we said Leonardo Santos is the better fighter, even though he's aged. But, oh boy, Jared Gordon told us wrong.
Yeah, Jared Gooden is all about that pressure. I thought he would use his wrestling in this fight and get caught up in a submission, but he was too smart for that. He knew he was the better overall fighter, and he was defensively sound enough to avoid a big shot from Leonardo Santos. This was honestly not a fun fight to watch because Gordon was dominant. He didn't give Santos any room to breathe here. Santos, of course, his greatest strength is his jiu-jitsu, and he didn't get to use it at all here. And as for the striking, nothing of significance really landed for Leonardo Santos. For me, Jared Gooden should definitely look to get another job because you saw in the media day he said, "I don't get any satisfaction from MMA." So honestly, Jared Gordon is not a guy you want to bet on because he's not exactly all in. So that was a bummer to hear from him. I hope he gets his passion for the sport rekindled.
Absolutely. He's a fantastic fighter, and he showed it with obviously some fantastic skills. He's got some good wins. He's lost to only, the incredible guys. Charles Oliveira, he got knocked out, but he's been in there with some of the best. So hopefully, obviously finds that fire, finds that motivation to whatever it is. You talked about it wasn't a very good fight, and that puts a perfect segue to a good fight. It was entertaining because the first round showed everything. Saldana knocked down Woodson and landed an illegal knee. The fight got restarted. Sean Woodson was out. I believe he was knocked out, and then the fight got restarted. I was thinking, what the hell? This is crazy. How are they letting this fight carry on? It was ridiculous. And then Sean Woodson came back and won round 2 and 3, and I thought maybe it should have been a draw. Oh, it was a draw. Sorry, it was a draw. And then it was a draw, and I was talking about the Marcin Tybura fight then. Obviously, Woodson came back on round 2 and 3, and I was thinking to myself, how Saldana threw this fight away. It was crazy.
Yeah, Saldana literally cost himself this one here. He was not only was he showboating, he apparently didn't know the rules. So in round 1, they're just feeling each other out, and goodness gracious, Saldana drops Woodson with a sharp jab, and you look at the camera angle. After Woodson drops, you're like, where's Saldana? Why isn't he following up? So apparently what we couldn't see off camera was him showboating. And Woodson gets back up, gets dropped again, and then Saldana showboats again. And then he goes and lands that illegal knee. He then follows up with some ground and pound. He doesn't realize that he landed a legal strike. So he goes up on the cage and celebrates like he just won. That was a huge adrenaline dump for him. And then he finds out he landed a legal strike, gets a point taken away. Honestly, the strike was so legal and just so done with clear intention that for me, you should have taken 2 points away. It was just that egregious. And I'm surprised Woodson didn't just take the no contest or the DQ there. And Woodson takes his time and he finds a way not to get knocked out that rest of the fight. I thought he lost rounds 2 and 3, quite honestly. First round was 9-8 for me because that point deduction. I thought Saldana won this fight, but when you leave it in the judge's hands, that creates openings for a draw like this, which I didn't think Woodson won rounds 2 or 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Saldana showed some that he was lacking a little bit of maybe of the IQ. Obviously landed that knee, and if he didn't land the knee, the fight was over because Woodson was that badly hurt. It was incredible. He was all over the place.
Yeah, he was flopping around like a fish. The guy was out. But Saldana, young and dumb, Dana White said himself that he would have given Saldana a bonus had he gotten that finish, but that showboating is no good.
Absolutely. Moving on to a fantastic fight. AJ Fletcher versus Anjos. This one had it all. The striking of each guys, the takedowns of Anjos as well. 2 out of 4, 5 minutes and 26 control time. AJ Fletcher can take a shot. God damn. Lusa hit him with everything he had.
Yeah, this was a back and forth war. I thought we were looking at the fight of the night right here. Of course, before that Costa and Rockhold war that we saw right there. But this was so much fun to watch. So early in the fight, AJ Fletcher's just very easy to hit. Anjos has a 41% accuracy. He's landing these punches with some serious sting on them. But Fletcher, of course, very young in his career. He's got a very good chin on him. And clear first round for Lusa. He outstrikes him 39-21 in significant strikes. He even got himself a takedown there. And then come round 2, Fletcher finds some serious success in that round. Lusa's actually winning early in that round, but once Fletcher hit him good, he had Lusa running. Lusa was so wobbly on his feet. I thought we were looking at the fight being stopped in a couple seconds. But the ref lets it go on. Mike Beltran, that was. And somehow Lusa survives. Fletcher had emptied that gas tank. And that creates an opportunity for Lusa to win that round 3. He outstrikes him 38-4 in round 3. Fletcher was so tired he could only throw 11 significant strikes in that round. Lusa gets one takedown. And I knew as soon as he got on top that Fletcher would not have the energy to get up, and that's what happens. Almost 4 minutes of control down for Lusa in round 3, secures him the fight. But wow, that was a real crazy fight there. I thought it was over in round 2.
Absolutely, a fantastic fight. AJ Fletcher taking everything and but the kitchen sink. Lusa getting the job done for Sanford should I say Kill Cuts FC. A fantastic event. Fight from Lusa. He got the job done. AJ Fletcher, 2 back-to-back losses now. Coming off the Contender Series, he looked like a prospect to look out for, and that's 2 losses now back-to-back inside the UFC.
Yeah, that was a tough one for Fletcher because he's shown glimpses of brilliance in these fights against very tough guys. The Sandelsberger fight, he dominated round 1. And this Lusa fight, he almost got the finish. So I'm sure the UFC gives him another shot because he's a very exciting fighter. And he's a Dustin Poirier protege. So very excited for his next fight.
Absolutely. Moving on to the early prelims. We had 3 early prelims. The early prelims started off well. We got 2 finishes out of 3. The first one we're going to talk about is Amir Albazi getting the first round demolition over Francisco Figueiredo. I mean, we talked about how Francisco is just nowhere as good as his brother Davison, and it just really showed in this fight.
Yeah, Amir Albazi has all the skills to become a future champion, in my personal opinion. His grappling is just so good. and which is strange because he's one of those guys that's not a black belt. But if you didn't know any better, you would think he's a black belt. He's only a purple belt in jiu-jitsu or brown belt. I might be wrong, but he's out here tapping black belts back to back. He tapped Malcolm Gordon with a triangle, and he tapped Francisco Figueiredo. Both guys are black belts, and he goes out there and he submits both men in the first round. This was beyond impressive to me. He outstrikes them on the feet. He gets 2 takedowns. The second takedown spells the end for Francisco. He gets back, chokes him out, rear naked choke. I think Albashi is the real deal, and you got to give this guy a step up in competition. I say you give him Alex Perez next.
Absolutely agree. The step up competition is definitely necessary now for Albashi. 50-1, looking really good, fighting out of London Shoot Fighters, I believe, over here in England. And he said he wants to get a quick turnaround on the Fight Island card. The Fight Island card, if I'm correct. So interesting. I know Dana White loves them type of fighters, so it'll be interesting to see if he does get quick turnaround, but I don't know whether they'll be able to do that so soon. But yeah, Alex Perez, definitely a worthy opponent for him next. A very, very good job for Amir Albazi getting the choke over Francisco Figueiredo. We knew that was going to happen, and it eventually happened. But moving on to the next fight, Arishi Lang versus Jay Perrin. This one was wild as long as it lasted. 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. So Arishi Lang. This one, heading into it, I didn't know where it was going to go, but it just seemed that this fight could go everywhere. Jay Perrin had that control time, but Arishi Lang just got a little bit better of him on the feet.
Yeah, so a lot of people were picking Jay Perrin as an underdog all week. I didn't get it. They were hyping him up like he was some really good wrestler. He really isn't. And Arishi Lang, he struggled against wrestlers before, namely Cody Durden. Cody Durden is actually a legit college wrestler. Jay Perrin, not really. I know he got a couple takedowns against Mario Batista, but that was different. This was a fight where we had Arishi Lang moving up to bantamweight. And he did damn good for himself in this fight. He filled up that frame quite well. Rounds 1 and rounds 2 were, in my opinion, they were very clear Arishi Lang rounds because he was stunning Jay Perrin bad. Jay Perrin was not reacting well to the power coming from Arishi Lang. And even though he got himself a takedown in those rounds, it just seriously wasn't enough. And come round 3, that's when the madness ensued. That was the round that Jay Perrin won because he got himself a takedown in that round. Got some ground and pound going, but once it was on the feet, Arishi Lang was a little bit tired, and he was looking to scrap. So these guys started playing rock'em sock'em robots back and forth, and Jay Perrin hurt Arishi Lang, but Arishi Lang is a straight-up dog, so he stayed in that brawl, and he lost that brawl. He was looking rocked at the end of that round 3, but ultimately his work in rounds 1 and 2 was enough to get the 29-28 decision.
Absolutely. A short episode that we have here today on a Marshall Silva MMA show. 43 minutes we are currently, and we haven't got long left, to be honest. We can talk about this last fight. Then we talk about Joshua versus Usyk quickly, and the Contender Series, and that's it. That's a wrap. So we're obviously a fantastic fight from Arishi Lang, getting the job done. First round, second round, he done the better. And then Jay Perrin, it came on strong at the end, but it wasn't quite enough. We talk about the first fight of the evening. Victor Altamirano got the performance bonus or the KO bonus of the night, 50 G's for him, and it was well worth it. A fantastic fight for as long as it lasted, but Victor Altamirano was just something different on the feet.
Yeah, so this fight went exactly how I thought it would in terms of we would see a comeback victory for Altamirano after De Silva got a little tired, but I didn't think it would happen within a round. I actually picked Victor Altamirano to get a third round finish in this fight because he's not a finisher. He's more of a point fighter. He fights pretty smart, but against Daniel De Silva forced that war. He dropped Victor Altamirano right away. Altamirano looked to be in serious trouble there, but he gets up, he lands a knee right to the body, and De Silva topples over, and he gets stuck in bottom position, gets hit with a ton of elbows, ton of ground and pound, and it looks like he wants to play jiu-jitsu off his back because he's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, trains with Charles Oliveira, so looking to get something off of his back, and he paid dearly for that because in that process, he took a lot of ground from Altamirano, and it was enough to the point where the referee had to stop the fight. Altamirano is a very tough guy, and he proved it in this fight. I thought he should have been a bigger favorite just because we know he's durable, and Da Silva is known to gas out and not to be super durable himself.
Absolutely, a fantastic fight for as long as I said, and he got the 50 Gs, so that's life-changing money for him. Obviously, on top of his money that he earned that night, 50 grand is a lot of money for probably where he is at his career. He probably got, we'll be realistic, probably about got 15 to fight, 15 to show, or a 15 show to win, and obviously 15 to win. So obviously, that's probably more than what he actually earned that night. So life-changing money for Victor. He takes it home. A fantastic way to kick off the card, as I talked about, 2 knockouts in the first 3 fights, and then we had a lot of decisions on the prelims. Actually, all went to decisions on the prelims, and then obviously the main card kicked off with an absolute bang. Tyson Pedro getting it done, Lucy Polidova getting it done, and obviously Morale versus Jose Aldo, and then obviously the fantastic fight between Costa versus Luke Rockhold, and obviously that main event, that head kick KO from Leon Edwards. When you all thought you counted them out. He was down and out. The 5th round, he had 1 minute left, and if he wasted that 1 minute, he would have lost the fight. But bam, he took his shot, and as he said in the post-fight interview, pound for pound, headshot, dead.
Yeah, and he also said, "Look at me now," because I felt like a lot of people didn't take him all that seriously after he got the 2-piece in the soda from Jorge Masvidal backstage at the O2 in 2019, and now people are looking headed as the current champion. This was a truly a crazy story Leon Edwards has had. He's only lost to Kamaru Usman in the last 7 years or so, and he avenged that loss. So this guy obviously has now gotten ranked at, I think it was like number 6 in the pound for pound rankings.
Yeah, look at the win that he went on. Obviously, as you see there, lost to Kamaru and beat Dominic Walters, Albert Romanov, Vincenzo Luque, Brian Barberena, Peter Sabota, Donald Cerrone, Gunnar Nelson, RDA, RDA when obviously had that draw, the no contest, against Bilal Muhammad, beat Nate Diaz, and then become champion of the world. It's absolutely incredible. Obviously, the stories came from the road that he's gone to get to the title, the adversity he's had to overcome as well. It's absolutely truly inspiring. Obviously, now he's got the title. This will probably go down as one of the greatest nights of my life of watching mixed martial arts because of what happened at the top of the bill.
Yeah, I really have not been more shocked watching many other stuff in my life. Like the chemicals going on in my brain really they lasted there for several hours. I'm probably still processing it right now.
Absolutely, it's a fantastic event. England started with a bit of disappointment that night. Anthony Joshua failed to reclaim his belts against Alexander Usyk, and we'll quickly just touch up on that before we get to the contender series. But yeah, so that's why I felt even sweeter when Leon Edwards won the belt, because obviously he won the belt. We had disappointment earlier on, so congratulations to Leon Edwards, but there was bittersweet disappointment to Anthony Joshua as he failed to reclaim his belts against Alexander Usyk. Pretty much the story of the same first fight. It was a little bit more quicker, a little bit better paced. Anthony Joshua made some slight adjustments that got him to have a little bit more success, but overall, it just showed the exact same fight on replay. Alexander Usyk is just a much better fighter, much better boxer. His footwork is too crisp. He's way too good at trapping Anthony Joshua coming in, and that's what we saw here. And obviously, Anthony Joshua, I don't know whether you saw it, his post-fight speech. To be honest, I don't really agree with it. I think it really ruined the moment for Usyk.
Yeah, Joshua obviously being a bad sport afterwards. You do got to feel for him. I think he's had like 3 losses in his last 5 fights now. It's not a great look. But of course, I do hope that the boxing community starts learning from MMA that just because guys lose doesn't mean they aren't bad fighters. They're just inferior to certain opponents. Joshua is still world class. He can work his way back to a title shot because of his popularity. Hopefully we get that Fury fight at some point because it's just got to happen. there's too much money on the table there. And Usyk, his speed really makes the difference in these fights. His speed and obviously his technique is fantastic. And I think he would give one hell of a fight to any heavyweight boxer on the planet right now.
And to be honest, they almost robbed Alexander Usyk of his well-deserved victory. It was a split decision. Someone gave it to Anthony Joshua, which I thought was outrageous.
I think that judge might be either a big Joshua fanboy or straight up corrupt. I scored the fight 9-3 in favor of Usyk.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was a fantastic fight. Arguably, you could give the first round maybe to Anthony Joshua. Other than that, it was complete domination throughout the middle of the fight, and obviously the end of the fight as well. It was just I don't know. Anthony Joshua needs a lot of things to work on, and obviously he'd have to come back. And there's still big fights out there for him. To be honest, there's Deontay Wilder out there for him. If Deontay Wilder wins against Robert Helenius or whatever his name is, that's a big fight they could do next. They could do the Dillian White rematch. That'll be huge in the UK. There's still a lot of big fights out there for him, and there's still a lot of room for him to improve and get belts back potentially, but it's a long road back for him. He's got to really work hard. I know this one was frustrating, really hard one. He let his emotions out at the end of the fight, and it really showed how hard he worked for it. But man, oh man, today, that night was not his night once again. And Alexander Usyk, he's just going to have to take it on the chin. Alexander Usyk is just a much better fighter. He's the one that obviously got away from him. But yeah, we got Contender Series this weekend as well. To be honest, I don't know really too much about it, but I know there is a heavyweight Brit fighting in the main event. Michael Parkin. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Yeah, for me in particular, I'm very excited about a Georgian gentleman on this card named Gogo Latse. He's got a really good record. He's only lost to super legit guys early in his career. That's why he's a 3-1 favorite. We know that the Georgians in the UFC are very successful. Of course, we just had Merab Dvalishvili succeed this past Saturday. Got Roman Dolidze in the mix. Gurku Tataladze. Yeah, I'm very, very big on Gogo Latse. He's the big guy to look out for on this card.
Absolutely. Michael Parkin, as I talked about, a plus 170 underdog against Neves, a Brazilian. So interested to see how to get on. But the one I was obviously interested to see was obviously talked about the Georgian and obviously Parkin. But you know, the contracts have been handed out recently, so we could potentially see a lot of contracts handed out this tonight.
Yeah, I'm also big on Simon on this card. He's a trading partner of Dricus Duplessis, so he's for sure getting in some good rounds there, and he's undefeated, tons of finishes. Very hyped up for him.
Well, that pretty much wraps up the episode. A very short episode, 52 minutes, one of the shortest that we've had in a long while. But yeah, the recap of UFC 278, we talked about it. Edwards getting that belt back, bringing it back to Birmingham, England. Phenomenal stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. Oscar, is there any parting words that you have to the fans?
Yeah, so we got no card to preview, but of course, next week we will be here to preview UFC Paris. Ghana.
Yeah, yes.
To Yavasa. That will be tons of fun to preview. Got a lot of French-speaking fighters on the card. The big fight I'm looking forward to is, of course, Robert Whittaker versus Marvin Vettori. And also we have your guy, Nathaniel Wood, taking on Charles Ayers Jourdain. That is going to be a banker.
That's going to be an absolute firefight. Obviously, Nathaniel Wood showing what he's worth, moving up to 145 pounds in his recent fight. And obviously now gets a big shot against Charles Jourdain. That'll be a really good one. And you talked about the main event, Garn versus Taito Vasa. If Taito Vasa wins, he's staking his claim for a title shot, surely.
Honestly, if Taito Vasa wins, that would shock me more than the Edwards head kick, quite honestly, because I think that is the worst matchup maybe in the whole division for Taito Vasa, because Gon's got a tremendous chin. He stood with Francis Ngannou, and he's better technically everywhere than Taito Vasa. I think that'll be a walk in the park for Silva Khan. So if Ty pulls that off and does a shoey, that would be a moment for the history books.
And obviously all his G's, as they say over there in Australia, OGs, whatever they call them, are going over there to watch him. Taito Vasa are getting supported by Tyson Pedro, Justin tougher, so it'll be good to see. Obviously, his mates in the crowd supporting him on. It's going to be good to see it in Paris. You know, a new location, a new venue. It's something that we haven't seen before. So I'm interested to see, you know, how well the Paris fans are going to give the fighters receptions.
Yeah, and of course, Curtis Blades is waiting on the winner of the Gane versus Tuivasa. And also, I hear Paulo Costa will be flying to Paris to sit front row in anticipation of the winner for Whitaker versus Boy.
Wow, I mean, he wants the fights. And obviously, he's got one fight left on his UFC deal that said he wants to test free agency. So that'll be interesting to see how it goes. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. A very short episode. Something that you're probably not used to. We're used to going maybe an hour longer, and 45 minutes longer. But yeah, a very short episode, nice and sweet. We'll talk to you next week where we talk about, well, we preview, and it'll be another short episode where we preview UFC Paris. Thank you all for joining us. Catch us next week, same time, 6:15 British Summer Time and 12:15 Central Time.
Correct.
Absolutely. So make sure you tune next week. Thank you very much for joining us, and a very